Roger.
I'm not gonna die! Just watch me!
Karen, what the hell are you doing?
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Anime Night, where we take a series and analyze it episode by episode. In this case, with me flying solo, I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And once again, we are making our way into even more of Mobile Suit Gundam, the 8th MS team, with today taking on the fourth episode in here, The Demon Overhead. And to me, this episode, I have no problem, is where everything picks up. And I can see why people love it. It's great. But let's go into the overall synopsis before I go too far in. And this, once again, is provided to us by the Gundam Wiki. Two DOP fighters haul the mobile armor Apsilus high in the night sky to begin a field test. Aina serves as the pilot of the Apsilus and begins the test. While there are some minor equipment problems, the Apsilus performs well during the test. And we also have a subplot that isn't mentioned by this synopsis, and it actually is in regards to Sanders, because now we get to learn a little bit more about why he's called the Reaper. Specifically, that I guess by the third operation that he had executed with his previous teams, everybody in the team died except for Sanders. That's interesting, but I mean, I already have a bunch of questions on it. Like, you actually counted it? I think you counted it at this point. I'm just not sure if you did in the past. But it definitely provides for some interesting drama within the team, because now Sanders is maybe not going to be able to perform as well because he's worried about superstition and whatnot. But let's actually delve into it. So we have this subplot going on with Aina and testing the Apsilus mobile armor. I believe it's a mobile armor. And we also have Sanders. So already I can tell you that this was an amazing episode in how they executed all of it, because they tried so hard to make sure that both plot lines were adhered to, and they did very well with it. So I also do, if you guys don't know this, I make my own notes as I go along, so I'm going to be doing these as we explain things. So the first note, obviously, I did was, all right, Aina is planet-side and looks like she may be testing a mobile armor. And I believe, yes, the Apsilus is technically a mobile armor, but let me double-check it. Okay, I actually had to look up the Japanese term, which is the Apsaris. So at that point, the Apsaris project, I believe, yes. Yes, it is qualified as it is classified as a mobile armor. Because of some of the additional features that it actually has, including its Minovsky ultra-compact fusion reactor. So it is technically qualified, or classified, I need to say these things right, classified as a mobile armor. And so I have a feeling it's going to be the, quote, big bad of this particular episode. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this out into the open, because I already have a feeling Universal Century fans will probably hate me for this. I am not a big fan of mobile armors for a number of reasons. I do think that some of them look awesome. Like, for example, the Big Zam I love, as well as the, I can't remember what it was called in Universal Century, but it's called Destroy Gundam when they brought it into See Destiny. And I also love the fact that the Destroy transforms into a Big Zam. That's freaking awesome. I love those. I think those are intimidating as hell. But then you get ones like, I think the Zeong qualifies, which is Char's last mobile suit that he uses in the original series. Also the Nouvelle Zeal, I think is what it's called in 0083. Not big fans of the looks of those, and primarily because I have like legitimate concerns as to whether or not it would be a good budgetary expenditure to put a lot of resources into this, because again, this is a war that has gone on for years. So at that point, I think you're pretty much losing mobile suits every encounter. So at that point, I think it would be much better use of resources to make sure that you build more Zaku's as opposed to a Big Zam And I get it. Sometimes we have to experiment in order to be able to win the fight, but that's my overall issue with mobile armors, is that can you really afford to do this, especially in the Universal Century? Like in Sea Destiny, it made sense because of the circumstances surrounding the destroy. It just doesn't really make sense in these cases, but I do think they make up for it in the fact that there's a lot riding on the Obsolus project, and we do get to see that with Aina's brother, who is basically the head of the project. So for all the people who are going to get mad at me and saying, like, how dare you not like mobile armors, I just don't. I tend to think that they're uglier than most mobile suits in any Gundam series, and also big freaking wastes of time, because all they are is they're basically a kaiju for a Gundam to defeat. And so I look at that and go, well, but you know, the way that these series go, I get it that they're not looking at it from my perspective. They're still big wastes of money and resources. So I'm getting that out of the way. But as far as the look of the Obsolus in this one, it is intriguing. I will say that at the least. Basically it's a big orb, from what I can tell. If it can transform, I haven't seen that just yet. So don't necessarily jump on me for that one. Moving into the next one we have, and then looks like we're going to learn about Sanders' past. And I actually liked how they did this, because they basically made another MS team, I think it was the 7th, criticizing Sanders and actually trying to advise Shiro that he ought to get rid of Sanders, to which Sanders loses his shit, and they get into a fist fight, which eventually Shiro joins, and eventually Commander Kojima has to come out and stop the fight. So I did like that, because now we actually got to have that question answered. And we also get kind of a teasing a little bit later that Karen already knew about it, because of transfer orders. So, but we'll get into that in a little bit, because it's going to play into the Sanders storyline. So how does Shiro not know about Sanders' history? I mean, maybe he hasn't gone over the files yet, but I doubt it. That was one question that I had, is that, you know, you'd think that the first thing Kojima would have done is address his new members and given him the files. But apparently, you know, they're out in an outpost, so maybe he wasn't able to do that. I'm willing to give that benefit of the doubt, but I have a feeling he probably should have known, if he was the brand spanking new commander, that he was going to have some fresh transfers. And also, he was on a shuttle, so he could have easily looked it up, and they don't ever say that he did. Wow, Aina, that dress is a bit much. So that dress is a bit much. Also, kind of getting incest vibes from her and her brother. This is in reference, so now that they're on the surface testing the Obsolus, they decide to hold like a dinner party, because of course we have to have some lavish dinner party in a Gundam episode, and it's being hosted by her brother, who's running the Obsolus project, and we get to have a visitor who is an admiral for, I think, the European division for Zeon, and I'm calling him Admiral Jackass because I don't actually remember what he was called, but basically it looks like him and Aina's brother have history, as well as Admiral Jackass and Aina have history, because it sounds like he's known them for quite a while. But the one thing that threw me off most of this party was she loves her brother, and it's really starting to give me that 80s, 90s incest is wincest vibe, and it's really starting to throw things off. It's really distracting at this point. Yeah, Aina really gives incest vibes, especially after Admiral Jackass. This is where Admiral Jackass comes up to her and says, "Oh, you've grown into such a fine young woman," and mentioning, you know, that he doesn't get to see fine young women in the European division that he's running. So maybe they could spend some time and catch up. And she obviously hates the guy. And I think the main reason she hates the guy is, A, he's a jackass, and I believe he was drunk at the party, but also because brother hates him. Which, again, ew. Sanders wanting a transfer. Yeah, if I were Karen, I'd punch him too. So this is Sanders' response after people find out what his history is. He basically requests Shiro transfer him out of the unit because he likes the unit and he doesn't want them to die. Karen's response to this was to punch him in the face and then promptly kick him in the nuts. That was going too far, Karen. All right, I gotta dock you points on that one. Don't do that. But overall, like, the reason being is this is where we learn every third engagement or every third mission with a unit for Sanders is when he loses his entire unit. Now, obviously, Shiro doesn't buy it, and Karen doesn't buy it, but we don't really know why at that point. But both are responding along the lines of, like, you're just being a coward about it. And I tend to agree on this one because, again, he's just being very superstitious. I can see it from his perspective, but it does seem really weird considering he's, you know, obviously had a lot more improvements with this unit since he's been there. And yeah, the nut shot went too far, Karen. I even felt that shit. That was too far, Karen. I have to take points on that one. And yeah, every third mission, his units all die except him. Yeah, I got some serious doubts on that, but interesting weight to hang around Sanders' neck. As much as I'm knocking Sanders for the superstition, it is interesting drama for him to bring to that table. Is like, we've seen 2 encounters with him so far, and this would be the third. This would be the one where everybody would be lost. So it makes sense why he would want to get transferred out of the unit. And more importantly, it creates this kind of sense of dread with Sanders because you can see how much he likes his new commander. And primarily, I think he likes Shiro because Shiro's the only one pretty much not calling him Team Killer or Reaper or anything like that. So I tend to like that quite a bit, but it does add quite a bit of worthwhile drama there. I agree with Shiro's sentiment about having faith. This is where he tries to get Sanders to just have faith in him that things are going to go okay. But his delivery looked like it came from freaking Sasuke. Yeah, so this is where they're having dinner just before their next mission, and he's trying to get Sanders to have faith, but basically the way he did was just like, just have faith, oh my gosh, and then he stops eating his rations and immediately lies down to look at the stars and probably fall asleep. And that's my only beef with it. It's just like, he went really emo with it, and so it didn't come off as like what we've known as for Shiro in past episodes. It just came off as freaking Sasuke Uchiha. Elidor needs to smack Drama Queen. Good God, don't write your will on the freaking battlefield. This was where they start to have engagements, and Ninarik, Drama Queen, is still writing really bad drama-filled letters, but now he's also writing his freaking will. I cannot think of a bigger, like, we're talking about superstition here. I cannot think of a bigger thing that would bring bad luck than writing your will on the battlefield. And Elidor, yeah, you need to kick that guy in the nuts. That, you know what? Can we have Karen do it? Because I think Karen would be able to put that extra oomph, and maybe the balls would finally drop, and we could actually give a crap about the character. Looks like Aina isn't having much luck on test run 2, making for some interesting drama because it looks like where Shiro might be. So there's technically 2 test runs. The first one was fairly successful. The second one, it looks like she's having weight problems. It looks like the mobile armor might be too heavy to maintain a certain altitude, so she starts kind of slowly going down, and she's not really complaining about it, but they are starting to notice, and even her brother is like, oh, we need to stop this because we can't afford to lose this mobile armor on the battlefield, especially since they're getting warnings that there's an active battlefield pretty close by to where where they are testing, especially with where Aina is going. And I think they also said it didn't look like they could get the Absolus to turn around either, so it just kind of adds on to that. But yeah, I still like it, but it definitely got me questioning, like, oh, she's going to end up in Shiro's battlefield, isn't she? And the only question is going to be, are they going to know that each other is there? Probably not. The relationship between Bro and Admiral Jackass is even less interesting when Jackass is sober. Who'd have thought? This is where we actually find out at the party he might have been drunk, and it's basically the same relationships that I've gotten used to seeing in Zeon in previous series as well. It's just like, oh, hey, look, everything's a power struggle, and he who has the most power is the one who gets whatever they want, and Admiral Jackass is kind of showcasing that, so it was very meh to me. So Aina was near Shiro after all, how convenient. And yeah, I could have called that a mile away. They were going to end up on the same battlefield, but they wouldn't know that the other was there, because Gundam likes to do that. Yes, Drama Queen Sanders intentionally made sure that a new unit would end up near your unit. Come on, can we not write superstitious storylines better? Yeah, so this was where I think it was Sanders was basically blaming himself for the fact the Absolus ended up there. And that's where the superstition kind of went too far, in my opinion. I get why they did it, and it does add for drama, but it just became stupid at that point. It's like, really? I think you're, people who don't know this psychology term, but you're catastrophizing a bit there, Sanders. Oh, look, someone wants to die today and gave away their position. Oh, which one was it? Oh, this is also why I think Drama Queen Ninorik needs to have his balls kicked in by Karen, because they were supposed to be super quiet when they saw this mobile armor coming in, and all of a sudden their position is given away. And who is it given away by? Right to my next note. And of course it was fucking Drama Queen. He accidentally fired his gun because he's the gunner in the tank. And of course he gave away their position. So nice job, numbnuts. I hate you even more now. And like I said, I want Karen to just basically kick your balls into your body so far they come out your throat. And Karen, to prove a point, goes full Rambo and gets smacked by the Absolus. Apparently a scoop of stupid was in the coffee this morning. I do like this moment, don't get me wrong, but I just kind of looked at it when it was happening. I'm like, I think they put a scoop of stupid in the coffee this morning, because she basically goes full on Rambo to try and prove to Sanders that shit happens and it's not superstition or anything like that. She's not, and she even kind of starts screaming at him throughout this whole thing. I'm not going to die while she's doing this. And again, I love the drama of it, but then you kind of look at the actions and go, not very conventional. I'm pretty sure that there would be some problems here. I think somebody put a scoop of stupid in the coffee. Hey, look, it's the Reaper to the rescue. I think he deserves some TLC there, Karen. And yeah, this is where Sanders ultimately snaps out of it and goes to the rescue of Shiro and the crew, including Karen, who basically gets knocked unconscious because her playing Rambo ends up with her getting kind of run over by the Absolus, and then she had to fall from a great height because the Absolus was able to pull itself back up. So, yeah, Sanders needs a little TLC there, Karen. No more kicking the balls for Sanders, at least. And Aina also drank some of that coffee. Yeah, somehow the stupid also came in for the Zeons. Drank some of that coffee for taking a prototype unit into a freaking battle that could have been avoided. Now, I'm giving Aina a little bit of shit here, but her stubbornness is ultimately because she wasn't willing enough to admit that, like, oh, I'm having problems. She wants to see Brother's goal fulfilled so much that she was willing to throw herself into a battlefield with a prototype unit that hasn't technically been paid for yet, ultimately, and doesn't know if it's going to get approved. So she actually made things worse for her brother in the long term, and I don't know if she realizes that just yet. Nice job, Sanders. Aina deserves to get a beam saber up the ass, and this was actually a good moment for Sanders. So he basically goes in to try and save Karen, and in turn shoves that beam saber right up the ass of the Absolus, and it was great. Good job for Sanders. See, Sanders, we're all alive, except Drama Queen, who is a dumbass and should be executed at dawn. And I stand by my statement for my notes, because, dude, you absolutely should be taken off the gunner seat. You should be cleaning the latrine for what you did. You don't give away your position, and this is why I have no problem with Karen kicking you in the testicles so hard they come out your mouth. And yeah, overall, this to me is where the series picked up, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. This was a great episode. It did start with some weird directions, but overall paid off in the end. And the reason I say weird directions is because they were trying to balance Aina's storyline along with Sanders. Now, I've seen some animes that have tried to do this and have failed. Thankfully, a lot of them are able to do it in a passable way, and this was an outstanding way. So I'm very happy with how it ended up. And yeah, 5 out of 5. The Demon Overhead was an amazing episode. So much so that I watched it again right after because it was just full of action, especially once you get past the weirder parts. And that'll go ahead and do it for this episode. So if you're joining me on YouTube, welcome. We're happy to have you. If you like this, make sure to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. You can check out some of the other podcasts that I've done. Specifically, recently, me and my wife Andrea did one for the first season of Beyblade. You can check out some other movie reviews that we've done for like Top Gun Maverick. And also, you can check out some of the minicasts and some of the other stuff that we do. If you're following on podcast platforms, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Player.fm, as well as Spotify. And we will catch you guys next time for episode 5 of the 8th MS Team, The Broken Order to Stand By. And I will catch you guys then. Until then, take care, my friends.